Good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what today is? Monday morning chats for Sack, and Sack is me. I hope that you guys had a great weekend. I had an amazing weekend. Went to brunch in Philly with my aunt yesterday. Went to a Sisters in the Law event yesterday in DC, and it was like their first event where we celebrated the appointment of Ketanji Brown Jackson. Today is her official day at the Supreme Court, and so I'm just wishing her well wishes, and she has my support. Also, I got a chance to take out some of my winter fall clothes, and in the process of putting all those things up and taking away my summer clothes, putting those away. And then I got a chance to hang out with my best friend, and so that was cool. Went to one of my favorite restaurants in DC, Founding Farmers, one of my favorite. I think because I like their shrimp and grits. So if you don't know, shrimp and grits is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite dishes. And so when I will go to restaurants, I will see they have shrimp and grits, and I will get that, and I will just see if it's better than any other shrimp and grits that I had. And I think my favorite shrimp and grits that I had so far is from this place called Midnight Diner in Charlotte. And I'm so sad because I found out this summer that they're closing down. So now I need to find a spot to go to just for their shrimp and grits. There's one place in DC. It closed down, but it was called Edenville. Shrimp and grits was amazing. So shrimp and grits is one of my favorite dishes. I love shrimp and grits. Favorite. But I had a conversation with one of my friends about friendships and investing so much in a friend where you get the bare minimum, right? And so if I had, and we just talked about other things, and so if I had to label this, I will say, I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you that emotional friend? Are you that draining friend? Hear me out. Let me explain. We have different friendships, and each friendship serves its purpose, right? Each friendship serves that purpose. You have one friend where you give them the bare minimum because that's just how your relationship is, right? You have friends where you may hang out if there's a celebratory moment for someone that you both have a mutual connection with. And so you're only there for the drinks and the food for a good time, but you may not converse on a daily basis. Or you may have that friend where you don't call them as much, you don't talk on the phone as much, but if you need them, they'll be there, right? You can always depend on them. You had that friend where you could tell all your secrets to, and your secrets are safe with them. They will never say anything. You had that friend that you could travel with, right? Because sometimes we may not have that friend that comprises of all these things. That's why we have separate friendships. So you may have that friend where you're able to travel with, and you're just this is a friend that I can do life with, right? You had that friend that's a goal-getter, and they set goals and they accomplish them. So you had that overachiever, or just that person that just achieves. Whatever goal they set their mind to, they're going to get it. So if you have a friend that says, hey, I'm going to open this business next year, you can believe that person is going to open their business. You had that friend that prays, right? You had that friend that's into church, maybe. And so even though this friend may not come around as often, you know that this friend has you in their prayers on a consistent basis. And they may invite you to church, right? You had that friend where you have a problem and you call them. They're showing up at your house less than 10 minutes with a black hoodie on and saying, let's go. Right? Sounds about right. Got friends in no different type of categories. But then you had that one friend where they may not be there as much, or they're there sometime, but they are emotionally draining. And let me explain. They only call you when bad stuff is happening in their life. There's nothing good, or if it is good, it's just hey, this is good, but it's going to be overshadowed with some negativity. Yeah, this is good, but let me tell you what all this stuff is going on in my life. And it's consistent, right? It's consistent. Every time they call you, it's just bad news. It's just bad news. Or they just are draining, they are negative, and they're not even pouring into you. Are you that type of friend? I think sometimes we don't realize the type of friend that we are when we question our friendships and when we question why friendships didn't last, why friendships didn't work out. Now, don't get me wrong. You outgrow people, right? And sometimes it just may not be outgrowing people, but sometimes you make a right and this person turn left. And just because that person turns left, that doesn't mean that they are a bad person. It's just life happens. Life happens to all of us. And sometimes because life happens to us, it makes us make decisions at an unexpected moment where we have no choice but to turn left. And I get it, right? I understand it. But it's for those friends that are draining, that want to take, but unwillingly able to give, right? Because I believe in friendships or any type of relationship, your return is contingent upon your investment. So if you invest so small in this friendship, you can't expect this big return. It just doesn't make sense, right? And so it's this idea of analogy to business, small, scared money don't make money, right? And so if you want to thrive in a business, you got to be willing to spend some money, right? You have to be willing to invest a lot so you can reap what you sow. That's the same thing with friendships. What are you sowing into your friendships? Are you that friend that you're so emotionally draining? And it's not because you intend to be. Maybe the only time you find comfort in talking to people is when you have problems, right? And that's okay, but you have to ask yourself, one, does this person have the mental capacity to listen to what you're saying? If I know I'm about to vent to someone, there's not so much emotion into it, but I want to make sure I'm rational about what I'm about to do. Because sometimes it's good to see it from a different person's perspective. And I'll say, hey, do you have the mental capacity to listen to me vent? And this is the synopsis of what I want to talk about. If they say no, I'm like, okay, I need to just talk this out. I need to write my journal about this because this is something that is like bothering me, right? But are you that friend that all you do is pull, right? You take. And when you question your friendship, you have to ask yourself the role that you play in it, right? The role that you play in these friendships. I have these reflections all the time about the friendships that I have. And I made a conscious decision to say that the friends that I have, the ones that I communicate with on a consistent basis, and consistent doesn't mean every day, because I have a life. Now, sometimes it depends. Like if I have a friend that I talk to maybe more than 3 days out the week, that's because we are busting jokes, okay? We are sending each other jokes during the time that we are working because Lord knows I need a laugh. So that's what gets to me. Like if you are a comedian, my friends think I'm funny, I don't know why, but if you are someone that has a sense of humor, chances are I'll probably talk to you more than anybody else. That's just who I am, right? Because I don't want somebody that's draining. And so I looked over my friendship and I said, you know what? This is a friendship that I want to cultivate. I want this friendship to grow. So I'm going to invest in this friendship. There are some friendships I realized, hey, or somebody that I'm just cool. I'm like, hey, this person is going to get the bare minimum. There's some friendships where I was like, you know what? What is beneath? What is below bare minimum? What is like the low? Because that's all I'm willing to give because there's nothing being invested in this friendship. And I don't care what nobody say where, some people may say, well, you can't worry about what people give you. It's all about what's coming from the heart. And yeah, that may be true. And yeah, that may sound good. But when you are in different relationships and you find yourself just giving, and that person is taking, and you're not getting anything in return, it is mentally draining. It is mentally taxing. And it's unfair. And so when you look at these friendships that you have to ask yourself, like for me, I'll do a reflection and say, hey, if this friendship is not what I want it to be, did I play a part in it? Because I'm not afraid to hold myself accountable. Like I had one friend, we were friends for over 16 years. And I had a conversation with my aunt because my aunt knows this person. And I was like, well, these are the things that escalated. I talked to two people, my mom and my aunt. My aunt was like, well, Sakina, you know, people go through things in life. So sometimes when people's behaviors change, it's not you. And I realized, like, taking myself out the equation allow you to see things from a different perspective. Like, hey, it's not about you. Like, I'll tell myself, like, Sakina, it's not about you. Like, this person may be going through things, and really giving this person grace. So I'm able to, and sometimes I fell at it, but I'm able to look at a situation and say, you know what? Okay, I get it, right? I completely get it, because life probably happened to this person. And when life happens to the person, I try to think about who they were before this incident occurred. And if I realize, hey, no, regardless if something happened to them, no, this is the same person. Like, this is the exact same person, and this is how they were prior to. And so I've learned that, you know, one, looking at it from another lens and saying, you know what, I get it. I understand it. This person is going through so much right now, and all I can do is be that friend that's supportive. You have to look at the role that you play and say, well, if this person is acting a certain way towards me, is there anything that I could have done better? But then sometimes you can't assume. So you may want to have a conversation with the person and just say, hey, you know, realizing that things are not the same between us. And I just want to know, like, have I ever done something to you to make you feel some type of way? Those are grown folks conversations. But for those that are mentally draining or that's very emotional, if you are that way, it's okay. I know some people that's very emotional. You have to ask yourself, one, am I always calling people when I have things that are not going right in my life? Is that the only time I find comfort? And if so, how can I scale back and try to process things internally first before I put like all this emotional trauma on somebody else? Because it could be a lot. Like, there's some times where I look at my phone and there's someone calling and I could just feel the energy. I'm like, okay, this person's going to call me, and it's going to start off as, hey, how's it going, Sakina? I'm so proud of you. I'm like, okay, what is next? And then it's like the emotional trauma, the emotional baggage is just like thrown on me unexpectedly. And I think sometimes for me, if someone would say, hey, like, you know, are you able to listen to me vent? If that question was posed, sometimes I would say no, because I may not be in a mental capacity to handle it at the time. And I feel like sometimes people catch me at an unexpected time, because I'm like, sometimes I'm driving and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm just excited about life. That's just who I am. And like, yeah, let me tell you about this. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy, right? This is crazy. So I will say this. If you are that person that you know that you are emotional, I would say, it's okay to validate your feelings. Your feelings are valid. The way you feel, you are entitled to that. 2, before you call someone, ask yourself, can I process this to the extent where if I'm ready to vent, that I am asking from a point of clarity, or maybe I'm asking for someone to just listen to me, right? Because sometimes when you're emotional and you're explaining all these things, you got to let the receiver know, okay, I just need you to listen. Hey, I need your advice on something like that. I think that will help them get them context of how to listen to what you're saying and how to move forward with the conversation. But just make sure that you're not just calling people. That's not the only time you call people. It's okay to call people and say, hey, how are you? How's your day? I just hope that you're okay. I got to tell people this all the time. Checking up on somebody goes a long way. And I know that, you know, you can't see someone's mental health. Like, I get that. And I understand. So I'm very mindful of that. I'm very conscious of that. I get that you can't see people's mental health, right? I get that. So be kind. But if you're that person that's always calling people when you just had things that are going bad in your life, I want you to just take a step back and say, can I call for once for just something good and just talk about that? Can I just do that for once? Number two, can you reach out to somebody and just say, hey, how are you? Like that goes, I tell people like being kind goes a long way. And, you know, sometimes for me, people look at me and think I had this exterior just being so strong and nothing doesn't faze me, nothing doesn't bother me. I'm still human. And yes, things do bother me. I just know how to control my emotions. Like I'm not that emotional friend. Like I'm not that friend that's going to call you and just complain all the time. That's just not me. I can process it myself. Most times if I cry, I'll just cry by myself and just say, you know what? Is this worth going to jail? No, it's not. And I write in my journal. Like journal writing is very therapeutic to me. I go to therapy. If I realize something is becoming too much for me, I will talk to my therapist first. That's a neutral party and are able to see things from a different perspective. Like that's how I process things from a mental health standpoint. That's just me. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but that's just me. I write. Journal writing is everything to me. I've been doing journal writing since I was in the first grade. And I think that helped me because when I was younger, I was teased. So I would just write out my feelings like, God, this person called me this, I'm going to beat up everybody. Everybody that's involved, beat up everybody. And I did, but different story for a different day. But I've learned to journal write, and I've learned to ask myself, is this worth it? Is this worth talking about? If I explain this to this person, will they get it? And so I'm not that emotional friend. Like I'm not like that. The only time where I'm just like really low is chances are when someone died that I'm real close to. And so in the last 3 years, the people that died that was really close to me was my Aunt Tracy and my Uncle Eddie. And my Uncle Eddie's death was different because it was unexpected. I found out that he died when I was at work. And so I'm at my office, I'm happy, I'm cheerful, and I get a text message. And I'm thinking like, okay, maybe this is a joke, this is a prank. It wasn't April Fool's Day. I thought maybe it was like a joke. And when that call confirmed, like I just broke down crying at my desk. And my colleague, I didn't want any hugs. Like I didn't want anybody to feel like they were sorry for me. But my colleague was like, no, stop. And just pulled me close. It was like, just gave me like this big hug. And that was needed. But I say all that to say, like, know what type of friend you are. I just want you to do a reflection of yourself and just say, hey, you know, I do call only when things are bad. Like, can I change it? Can I change the narrative and just call somebody, just let them know, like, okay, today's a good day, right? Today's a good day. If you're that friend that always want people to check up on you, you have to ask yourself, do you check up on other people? It costs you nothing to be kind. Sometimes I do my random, like people I ain't talked to in a long time, hey, just checking in. Yeah. So think about what type of friend you are. If you are that emotional, draining friend, like figure out how can you process these feelings and how can you control your emotions so that way it's not so much emotional like trauma that you may be putting on somebody else. And it's okay to vent, but before you vent to somebody, ask them, do they got the mental capacity to hear you vent? Because they may not. Just because people appear to be happy, just because people appear to be happy on social media, you just don't know. Like for me, I'm not that type of person where I'm on social media like, hey, I need y'all to pray for me. Don't ask me no questions. I don't get it. I'll go to God and pray. I'll go to like the leaders of my church and say, hey, can y'all pray for me? But that's just not me. That's just not me. But yeah, if you're that person that is always like calling people with bad news, like I want you to switch up the narrative and try to call somebody with some positivity. Like that can go a long way. It could go a long way. Know what type of friend you are. If you're that emotional draining friend, what can you do to kind of like change the narrative so you're not always calling or reaching out when things are bad? That's all I had. But make sure you're a good friend. If you have good people in your life, make sure you treat them good. Because it's not One of my friends told me that they was like, Sakeem, when I look at you, I realized that good people exist. And I was like, girl, you just saying that. But then I realized that there's not that many good people in the world. And so some people struggle with being kind. And so I would just say that if you have good people in your life, support them. Never take a good person for granted. I went through that my entire life. And it's like when years goes by, I'll get these random calls like, yo, you were a good ass friend to me, and I just didn't know how to be a friend. And at that point, I already forgave, and I don't want the friendship. Like, I don't want it at all. Like, time has passed, I healed from it, and I'm good. So if you have good people in your life, like, don't use them. Like, treat them good. Because if you lose a good person, like, you'll regret it. But having a good person in your life is like one of the biggest flexes ever. It really is. So just keep that in mind. It is Monday, so I like to shout out to all the dope men out there. You are amazing. You are great. You are phenomenal. You are awesome. And be great on purpose. Like, just be great on purpose. And for everybody else, I hope that this Monday is amazing for you. I hope that the remainder of the week is awesome for you. I hope that Libra season is going well for you. This is Libra season. This is my season. And Libra season has been going pretty well. So I'm really, really excited about Libra season. And my birthday is in 2 more weeks. This is going to be a chill birthday. It's going to be a relaxing, spa, chill, nice good cocktails, pretty cocktails type of birthday. But I'm excited. Really, really excited. Really, really excited. So yeah, have a great day, guys. And thank you so much. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Sakeem Tillman Esquire. I'm trying to get as many people to watch. I just, the purpose of Monday Morning Chats is to be vulnerable, to encourage people to be vulnerable, to encourage people to forgive, to encourage people to give grace by my own personal stories. These are not stories I made up. These are real life stories. And so I hope that encourage you to just be you. Be you. That's all. Take care.